Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Snakening. We're on episode 3 now, and the West throwing Zelensky and Ukraine under the bus is continuing on as to be expected. Although in this case, it might be part of a G-slur op that actually Zelensky is behind. Uh, his country's kind of insane. So we'll get to that in a minute. Now, there's been substantial speculation that there is a coup of some description incoming in Ukraine, that Zelensky will overthrow Zelensky and set up a junta of some description. Now, I've heard about this, but I don't know if that's actually going to be how it goes. Okay, so there's a couple scenarios. So I don't know if anybody's been following it, but the West or America has been pushing pretty hard for Zelensky to hold elections next year. Um, Zelensky had canceled the elections because Ukraine's under a state of emergency, and yeah, had just said there's not going to be elections in 2024. They're canceled. And then the U.S. said, no, you have to have elections. He's like, okay, we'll have elections, but you have to give me money. Um, if you give me, let me know if the mic's okay. Just my mic arm is not working very well at the moment. There we go. There we go. We got this, I think. Okay, well. Hopefully we don't need the pop filter because that fell off. But anyways, so there's been a lot of calls from various Republicans and Democrats and lots of Ukraine's Western backers. And they've been saying, look, Zelensky, you got to hold an election. This whole war was about democracy. This whole war was about human rights. This whole war was about sticking up to Putin. Russia held elections during this war, so you're going to have to hold them too. He's like, no, we got to extend the emergency decree. It's insane to hold elections at this time. And frankly, I agree with him. Ukraine's under no condition to hold an election. And even if they were to hold an election, I don't know. Like, it would just be a clusterfuck. The security concerns. Let me know if the audio is okay, guys. There's all the security concerns. There's possible interference, not just from Russia, but from the United States, might take this as an opportunity. There's money, it's a distraction, it destabilizes the government. So I actually agree with Zelensky on this one. I do think it makes sense to withhold elections until the end of the war, whatever that might be. Now is really not the time for a complete change in government and for all this other nonsense to go down. So, so there's that aspect to it. But he's been pressured a lot. Uh, and he said, okay, we hold the election if you give me money. Lots of money to hold the election is basically what the response has been. So a lot of people are thinking this might be America's off ramp. Um, this might be their opportunity to get rid of Zelensky and make it look like it's legitimate, that it's not like a military coup, that we're not going to remove him from office the way we removed DM. It's just going to be the will of the Ukrainian people. So, like, a couple things might happen if they force him to have an election. Zelensky might retire to spend more time with his family and more time with the homes he's bought overseas with the various USA dollars. That's certainly a possibility. We might also get uh, he might lose the election. What'll probably happen is the CIA will probably come to him and just tell him, like, look, dude, either you resign and don't run for reelection, or we're gonna, like, you're gonna lose because we're gonna rig the vote to make sure you lose. I mean, if American elections don't have ethics in video game journalism, do you think Ukrainian elections would have ethics in video game journalism? So they're going to take that opportunity to make him not run for reelection as a way of getting rid of him. That's option number one. Option number two would be if they decided to, uh, option number two would be if they decided to uh, make him rig the election so he loses, or they might be telling to him that uh, sorry, let me know if the mic's okay. It's fucking up really bad. Let me just give me 1 second. Fixed it. Okay, that should hopefully work now. I think I fixed the issue I was having with my mic. I have like a boom mic stand, and it just was falling out. So okay, so that happened. And they might just tell him, look, you either do this or we're going to go on and remove you in a coup. And Zelensky is going to be the new president. Now, the problem is the position that Zelensky is in is he can kind of be couped by one of two different ways. Um, he can be couped by the hardliners and like the, what are they called again? I'm trying to remember what they're called. The Banderites might want to coup him, or hardliners in the military, or hardliners in like Azov, or some of the other like neo-fascist groups, or just like ultra-nationalist groups, might coup him because they feel he's not fighting the war hard enough. They might want him to go even harder, to just draft literally every single person, to just attack more, to go further, and they might think that he's just not fulfilling what they expect him to do. He might also be couped if he's not willing to play ball and negotiate with Russia. Because I think at this point in time, it's pretty obvious that that's what the U.S. wants to have happen. The U.S. is, because Israel happened, they've been talking about like a freeze of the conflict. They've been talking about like a stalemate. They've been talking about, well, maybe we'll like just let Russia keep the territory for now. It'll be like, I think the new one is North Korea and South Korea, and they're like, Ukraine will become South Korea, and it'll become bigger and more prosperous than Russia somehow in the next couple of decades. It's like the current narrative they're spilling. So there's also a bunch of just other stuff, and I don't have a particular article because it's just a lot to cover. But there's been rumors that Zelensky is going to do some major purges where he's going to fire a large number of senior military commanders, including Zelensky and a bunch of other people who might be politically problematic, and that he's getting increasingly scared he's going to get couped. Now, once again, is he going to get couped by the pro-peace faction or the pro-war faction? We don't really know. Zelensky, for his part, I'm not really sure um, if he's a hardliner or he's a negotiator. Like if he's a peace or a war candidate. Maybe someone in the chat can inform me, but Zelensky just seems to be like his political ideology seems to just be being a snake. Because from my understanding, what he's been doing is he just criticizes everything Zelensky does. And if anything succeeds, he takes credit for it. And if anything fails, he blames Zelensky for it. So, from my understanding, he was against the fall offensives, but when they retook a bunch of territory, he's like, no, it's totally my idea, guys. It's totally my idea. I'm a military genius. I'm the Napoleon of Ukraine. You should totally make me president. You should totally get rid of that other dude and make me president. Yeah, I've heard that Zelensky wants to continue the war, but under a more defensive footing. He's tried to portray himself as being a rationalist who's somewhat less concerned with uh, the media, how the media perceive him. But once again, I don't understand. I don't know if that's from like a standpoint of we need to make Russia like bleed so that we can get better terms, or if it's we need to uh, just kind of whatever the opposite of that is, or we need to just fight on indefinitely. But if there's a re-election campaign, then he will probably run against Zelensky. Once again, I'm not sure if like someone from the far right is going to run against Zelensky, or like some pro-Russian guy from the uh, the uh, yeah. So it's rough. So he was going to apparently Zelensky was apparently going to fire a whole bunch of people, but then that was declared fake news, and he wasn't going to fire anybody. In relationship with the military is perfectly fine. So let's get to that's kind of a summary. Let's get to the snakening. I'm going to try to keep this video focused and keep it relatively brief. Sorry if I'm doing all of these in live streams. It's just I haven't had the energy to pre-record the videos, and that just takes significantly more time. Okay, so why is this not loading? Okay, there we go. Okay, I'll turn that off. Why can't I read the article? I still find it funny that the Washington Post's motto is "Democracy dies in darkness," but everything on their website is behind like some of the worst paywalls I've ever seen. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think it loaded this time. Okay. We just have all this garbage that's taking up the screen. So this is the Snakening. We have Straylock here. He kind of reminds me of Straylock from Stalker, to be honest. Just a little bit, maybe? Maybe a little bit. He looks like Straylock. I don't know. But it's remember like Nordstream. Remember how that thing that kept disappearing but was periodically mentioned? Well, it's back, baby. And the Washington Post has pretty much confirmed at this point that yeah, Ukraine blew up Nordstream. 100% Ukraine blew up Nordstream. That it's not even an argument anymore. It's like something from Game of Thrones. It's like what's dead may never die. Nord Stream will never die, but rises again, stronger and harder than before. So this is, I think, a core part of the snakening. So let's go through this article. I suspect that maybe Zelensky leaked this as a way to snake on Zelensky, but we're to so many levels of G slur ops at this point in time, it's really hard to know. Roman Chervinsky, a colonel in Ukraine's Special Operation Forces, was integral to the brazen sabotage operation, says people familiar with the planning. A senior Ukrainian military official officer with deep ties to the country's intelligence services played a central role in the bombing of the Nord Stream gas pipeline last year, according to officials in Ukraine and elsewhere in Europe, as well as other people knowledgeable about the details of the operation. The officer's role provides the most direct evidence to date tying Ukraine's military and security leadership to the controversial act of sabotage. I like how they have to call it a controversial act of sabotage. Like it's controversial that they blew up a pipeline. That's a controversy. This spawned multiple criminal investigations in that US and Western officials have called a dangerous attack on Europe's infrastructure. So it wasn't Russia. It wasn't Russia. I talked about this a couple months back, how it they had started to state that. So let's see here. Roman, a decorated 48-year-old colonel who served in Ukraine's special operation forces, was the coordinator of the Nord Stream operation. People familiar with his role said managing logistics and support for a 6-person team that rented a sailboat under false identities and used deep sea diving equipment to place explosives charges on the gas pipelines. Three explosions caused massive leaks of the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which run from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea. The attack left only one of 4 gas links in the network intact as winter approached. Like, the whole thing, once again, like, I call it the Ukraine cinematic universe. This is it's fucking Gilligan's Island. It's like the skipper, like, Gilligan, Ginger, the millionaire and his wife, the professor. They all got in a boat. They sailed out to the middle of the Baltic Ocean and they blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Like, it's insane. Roman did not act alone and he did not plan the operation. I wonder who did then. Let's see who they finger for this. According to the people familiar with his role, which has not been previously reported, the officer took orders from more senior Ukrainian officials who ultimately reported to General Zaluzhny, Ukraine's highest ranking military officer. I feel like they're kind of implying something here. Like, like, why are they bringing up Zaluzhny? Why are they saying that the guys who reported reported to Zaluzhny? Are they trying to say that Zaluzhny was behind this? And this isn't a new narrative because this has been said before. So I do kind of wonder if this is like a Zelensky thing where he's trying to finger Zaluzhny for this pipeline explosion. And so as part of that, I don't know. Ukraine has launched many daring and secretive operations against Russian forces, like killing Dugin's daughter. But the Nord Stream pipeline attacked targeted civilian infrastructure built to provide energy to millions of people in Europe. Do you notice how this whole thing is like? Once again, I call this the snakening because the tone of this is 100% changed. Now they're trying to portray Ukraine as like this evil force that took away the heating from the German people's homes. Germany did announce a massive aid package the day after this news came out. So good job, Germany. In another era, this might be regarded as an act of war, blowing up your main energy infrastructure, but I think it's okay. While Gazprom, the Russian state-owned gas conglomerate, owns 51% of Nord Stream, Western energy companies, including from Germany, France, and Holland, are partners and invested billions in the project. Ukraine has long complained that Nord Stream would allow Russia to bypass Ukrainian pipes, depriving Kiev of huge transit revenue. You know, this once again sounds like this article is trying to imply something that the Ukrainian government was mad because they weren't getting the tax revenue, so they decided to blow it up. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Once again, this is the Washington Post. Like, people can call me a shill, but I really don't think that the Washington Post is like a pro-Russia QAnon boomer conspiracy theory. Through his attorneys, Roman denied any role in the sabotage of the pipelines. All speculations about my involvement in the attack on Nord Stream are being spread by Russian propaganda without any basis. Russian propaganda like the Washington Post, like Reuters, like the New York Times, like Der Spiegel, like all of these guys. They're all Russian. Let's see who wrote this because that was the one I heard last time. That the person who wrote the article was Russian, and that there was no editorial control of the paper. Let's see here. Spokesman for the Ukraine government did not respond to a list of questions about Roman's participation. Roman's role illustrates the complex dynamics and internal rivalries of the wartime government in Kiev, where Ukraine's intelligence and military establishment is often in tension with its political leadership. I thought everybody was united. I thought everything was going great. We have this tension. It almost sounds like they're prepping for some sort of coup. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Roman has been serving in a unit of Ukraine's Special Operation Forces and was focused on resistance activity in areas of the country occupied by Russia. People familiar with his assignment said he reported to Major General, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, a seasoned and respected officer who communicated directly with Zelensky. You know, it's really interesting that they keep saying that he was 1 degree of separation away from Zelensky, who's the supreme commander of the Ukrainian armed forces and is currently the main rival of Zelensky. It's kind of weird that this article is pushing that narrative that Zelensky knew about it. And I just want to ask the chat, like, am I crazy? Like, am I reading too much into this to think that they're implying that Zelensky was behind this? Like, I feel like they wouldn't keep mentioning his name if they weren't trying to make that implication. Roman was well suited to help carry out a covert mission meant to obscure Ukraine's responsibility. Well, apparently he wasn't. He has served in senior positions in the country's military intelligence agency, as well as the Secret Service of Ukraine, the SBU, and is professionally and personally close to key military and security leaders. He has also helped to carry. Okay, so this is the Giesler op he tried to run. This is completely irrelevant, but it's kind of interesting. Roman oversaw a complex plan to lure fighters from Russia's mercenary group Wagner. We're going to get Wagner involved in this too, with the goal of capturing them and bringing them to Ukraine to face charges. He also planned and implemented operations to kill pro Russian separatist leaders in Ukraine and to abduct a witness who would cooperate Russia's role in shooting down the Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 over the eastern Donbass region. Let's see here. Last year, a Dutch court convicted 2 Russians and a Ukrainian of murder in the Downing. Roman is being held in a Kiev jail on charges that he abused his power, stemming from a plot to lure a Russian pilot to defect to Ukraine in July 2022. Authorities allege that Roman, who was arrested in April, acted without permission. Yeah, I'm sure he did. And the operation gave away the coordinates of a Ukrainian airfield, prompting a Russian rocket attack that killed a soldier and injured 17 others. Um, Now, let's just think about this for a minute. Let's think of, like, this sounds like something from like a comedy. He tried to get a Russian fighter jet pilot to defect with his jet, and he told them, like, look, there's this air base, this hidden air base, you could land there. And then the pilot told the Russians and they fired missiles at it. Like, it's just the operation was publicly said publicly the operation was approved by the armed forces. So they're just throwing him under the bus. Roman said he was not responsible for the Russian attack, and that in trying to persuade the pilot to fly to Ukraine and hand over his aircraft, he was acting under orders. He calls his arrest and prosecution political retribution for his criticism of Zelensky and his administration. Hmm. Roman has said publicly that he suspects one of Zelensky's closest aides is actually spying for Russia. Um, he has also accused the Zelensky administration of failing to prepare the country for Russia's invasion. So now we have some more finger pointing. Now the dude who they arrested for the Giesler op of blowing up Nord Stream for a different Giesler op he was trying to do, says that this whole thing is like another Giesler op that Zelensky's doing to try to take him down because he criticized Zelensky because he's actually working for Zelensky. Like this is like a Shakespeare. Like you need a fucking diagram to follow this. The operation was approved by the commander in chief, Zelensky. Hmm. Roman's participation in the Nord Stream bombing contradicts Zelensky's public denials that his country was involved. I am president and I give orders accordingly, Zelensky said at a press interview in June, responding to a report by the Post that the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency had learned of Ukraine's plans before the attack. Does anyone remember that? Apparently, like the Dutch and American Secret Service, like CIA, found out about the bombing, like in advance, and they're like, "Look, we know about the bombing. You guys shouldn't bomb it," and then they just went ahead and did it anyways. Nothing of this sort has been done by Ukraine. I would never act that way, Zelensky said. Well, it's pretty clear that it was Ukraine. So, once again, I wonder if this whole thing is like, um, if this is some big, like, plan to try to get rid of Zelensky. But the Nord Stream operation was designed to keep Zelensky out of the loop. People familiar with the operation said. See, Zelensky wasn't involved. This he didn't know this was happening. All of those involved in the planning and execution reported directly to Zelensky, so Zelensky wouldn't have known about it, according to reporting obtained by the CIA that was shared by a member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard on Discord. Officials in multiple countries have said privately they were confident Zelensky didn't personally approve of it. So, like, so it was Zelensky the whole time. Other secret, maybe this is like 40 chess, and Zelensky privately told Zelensky to carry this out. Like, like when they were in the bathroom or something, he's like, go up, blow up the. I can't do that accent, but blow up the pipeline. So now he has him in his back pocket as a way to throw Zelensky under the bus. I don't even know. Roman has blamed the Russian plant and several other Zelensky advisors for botching the plan to ensnare Wagner fighters after they traveled to Belarus. Let's see here. Roman said in a 2021 press interview it was because of a leak in Zelensky's inner circle. It's not just one mole in the Zelensky administration, it is a bunch of people, naming Yermak as well as two other Zelensky advisors. He accused administration officials of being afraid to challenge Russia. U.S. officials have privately chastised Ukrainian intelligence and military officials for launching attacks that risk provoking Russia to escalate the war in Ukraine. But Washington's unease has not always dissuaded Kiev. Once again, remember when they were celebrating the cross-border raids and they're like the storm shadows are coming in. They're destroying the Black Sea headquarters. They killed that janitor. Officials at the CIA relate to Zelensky through an intermediary that the United States opposed such an action, according to people familiar with these conversations. Okay, so let's just think about this for a minute. So the United States finds out that they're going to blow up Nord Stream. They don't talk to Zelensky. They don't talk to their man in Kiev. They don't like. They don't talk to him. They go to like his second in command and they tell him about it, but they don't like it's what? They're like, hey Zelensky, caught you, but we're not gonna tell your boss. I don't know. I'm gonna have to press exit out on that one. It turned out only to have been postponed to 3 months later, using a different point of departure than originally planned. Uh, Most of it remained the same. In an interview with the Post in June, Zelensky said the CIA had never asked him directly about any attack on Nord Stream. He said that after the explosions in September 2022, he received a phone call from General Milley and said, "Did you have anything to do with uh, the bombing of Nordstream?" He said, "No, a lot of operations are planned, a lot of operations are going on, but we have nothing to do with it, nothing at all." So he wasn't asked by the CIA; he was asked by Milley, and that's a big difference. Because if he was asked by the CIA, no, if he was asked by the CIA, he would have told them the truth, but he lied to Milley. Zelensky suggests in the interview that Russian propagandists had tried to tie him and the Ukrainian military to the operation. The Dutch military intelligence service also reported back to the Americans. Okay, um, is not clear. Okay, the Dutch military intelligence services also reported to the Americans that the Ukrainians planned an attack on another pipeline in the Black Sea called Turk Stream. I remember talking about this a couple months back. It's not clear why this was never carried out. In October 2022, Putin said that the country's security services had prevented a Ukrainian attack on Turk Stream, but Russian authorities provided few details. I have heard about that. There's an ongoing issue where Ukrainian ships kept like sailing over Turk Stream, and it really scared Erdogan. It is known that the attack. Okay, so we can skip TASS. Obviously, TASS is going to say they did it. Uh, Better intelligence officers acting on Ukraine's best interest. They argued that bombing the pipelines helped to keep Russia from filling its coffers from natural gas sales and deprive Putin of a means to use the flow of natural gas for political purposes. So, like, it was good, guys. Like, why are the Germans upset about this? Why are the Germans upset? The Russian leader has demonstrated that he is willing to use energy as a tool of retaliation. Let's see here. The German government. Before the war, Germany got half its natural gas from Russia and had long championed the Nord Stream project in the face of opposition from other European allies. Roman supporters have shown up in the court to defend him. A few have spotted a T-shirt emblazoned with his face in a "Free Roman" hashtag. Free is the symbol of Ukraine's military's willingness to make hard choices in a fight for the country's survival. I like how like the narrative is so bipolar. It's like, okay, he didn't do it. This is fake news, but if he did do it, it was awesome. So he said, "I have devoted my entire life to the defense of Ukraine. Uh, I will prove these in court because you know Ukraine is going to have 100% fair trial, 100% fair trial." So I don't know if that's snaking Zaluzhny or Zelensky or the makers of Stalker Shadow of Chernobyl. They're all very good questions. All I know for sure is that things are not going well uh, for our man in Kiev. Things are not going well. It's not looking good. Is there actually going to be a coup or something? I doubt it. I don't know, but my I think my point stands that seeing stuff like this in Western media on a regular basis shows that they're throwing Zelensky under the bus. That they're getting ready to dump him, and at the very least blame him for all of the dumb decisions they made throughout this crisis. Maybe say, okay, well, Zelensky's in power now. We're actually going to win this war, but I don't know. That's all I had to say about that. I think that that covers it. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. More exciting content to come.